Again from Artisan Mobile, bring you greetings from Philadelphia, which is where we're located. And I'm going to give you a perspective, I think, more from what's going on in the vendor community. So I think this has really worked out well. You've heard from the brands, you've heard from analysts, and I'd like to talk to you about what's happening in the vendor side of the world. There's some really exciting developments that are going on that are really going to support a lot of things that I heard people talking about this morning in terms of things like doing personalization, creating that really custom experience for your users. I'd love to talk to you about what we're doing in the world of what we're calling mobile experience management. I'd love to share with you what we've been hearing from the people that we've been working with over the last year or so. And in fact, I wouldn't mind doing sort of a quick survey here of the room just to kind of get a sense. But how many of you in the room here, by show of hands, have at least one mobile app that you have for your business? Excellent. Of that population, how many of you are absolutely thrilled with the results you're getting from your mobile app? Exactly what I expected. That's kind of what we've been hearing from a lot of the folks that we've been working with. The main thing is basically, hey, we've been making the investment in mobile apps, but we're not yet sort of getting the return from that investment that we were hoping for. And you know, when you think about it, the state of the art today is we're basically building apps, we're releasing them into the wild, and then we kind of wait to see what happens in terms of getting feedback and reviews in the App Store to kind of see whether they're working or not. And if they don't, we build more apps. I mean, there's actually a phrase in the industry now called fire and forget, where we have, you know, people are building one app after another to try to see if they hit the spot. So I think there's got to be a much better way, and that's what I want to share with you today. There we go. There was a plethora of statistics already provided today, but I'm going to give you some more in terms of, so here's the good news. I mean, mobile is obviously expanding very rapidly. More devices on the planet now than actually people. Mobile surpassing the internet, desktop internet usage in terms of surfing the web. Companies are spending billions and billions of dollars now in mobile marketing, and for the retailers in the room, I mean, mobile commerce reaching 31 billion in the next couple of years. So clearly this is a trend that's here to stay, and that's the great news. And it continues to rise. I mean, 4 out of every 5 minutes on a phone is being spent in an app. The time that we're spending in apps is now approaching the time we spend watching television, believe it or not, during the course of the day. And when you look at the top 100 brands, 91 of them have already built at least one mobile app, and that's up 50% from just 18 months ago. So we're seeing, obviously, mobile taking off incredibly well. Here's the bad news. 60% of the apps that have been built and put in the App Store have never even been downloaded. And of those apps, 1 in 4 are abandoned after the first use. So if nothing else that we learn or take away from here today, mobile is absolutely all about the experience. And I think we have Apple to blame in some regards. I mean, the devices, people love the devices, love the tablets, love the phones. They're very cool, they're very intuitive. Their expectations of the apps that run on those devices are equally high. They've set an incredibly high bar for us to try to meet. And I swear these are the last statistics that I'll give you. The one thing I would say is mobile has more statistics than any other category of technology I've ever seen on the planet. I've been in tech for over 30 years. There are websites devoted to statistics on mobile usage. But this slide basically says if you're not doing it well, bad things happen. I mean, it's going to reflect poorly on the brand. You're not going to get the users coming back. And so again, just sort of driving the point home that if you are not creating that wow experience for your users, you're probably not getting the results that you hope for on the bottom line, whether that's driving revenue, whether that's driving registrations, whether that's driving time in app, whatever it is that you've built the app to do, you're probably not achieving those objectives. The problem, though, I think, is that you really haven't had the tools to do the types of things that you want to do. The tools that you've had for years on websites, to do things like make dynamic changes to the look and feel, to do things like A/B testing and optimization, to personalize, really haven't been available to you in the world of apps, mobile apps. And I think this is a really compelling statistic here. Almost all of us are doing some form of testing with websites. Everybody it was mentioned earlier, you're constantly, evolving. Only 4% of survey respondents were doing it for mobile apps, right? So I don't think it's any wonder that we're not getting the results out of the apps that we had really hoped for. So I want to talk through how do you create a compelling mobile experience, and give you some thoughts there, and then lead into a conversation about a new category of solutions coming to market, again, from the vendor side, that I think you guys will be very excited about in terms of helping you do this. The first one, and some of these are going to be obvious, but building the app and getting it out to the App Store is really only the first step in a long journey. At that point, the journey is just beginning. Now you're in a position where you can begin to see how are your users using that app, how are they interacting with it, what's working, what's not working. But just getting the app built and getting it out to the market is, again, just the first step in the journey. The other thing I've noticed over the last year, working with quite a few of the top brands, is they tend to focus on what I call vanity metrics. We'll focus in on things like, well, we have a great number of downloads, which is great unless nobody's doing anything with the app. I mean, they're downloading, they're not doing anything, then that's not really accomplishing much. Or they're not doing what you thought that they were going to do, right? And so I think we really need to focus on, and kind of where we've moved is something we're calling task completion rate, which is if the app was built to do 3, 4, 5 specific things, what is the percentage of the users who are using the app that are actually doing those things that you built the app to do? And we think that's a much better measure of the performance and effectiveness of the app. This one, again, kind of sounds obvious, but believe it or not, I cannot tell you how many groups we work with who really don't have a clear objective of what it is they're trying to do with the app. To me, it's a little bit of like the 90s when everyone knew they had to have a website. Everybody was building websites. They weren't exactly sure why or what they wanted to get out of it. We're kind of there right now with mobile apps. And even the groups we work with amongst themselves don't agree why it is they built the app, what it is they're hoping to get out of the app. So while that seems really basic, it's incredibly important to be clear about, is this a lead gen app? Is this a branding app? Is this a service app? Is this an e-commerce app? It's really pretty important to understand why it is you built the app and what do you want to accomplish with it. And then selecting the right approach. And this can be somewhat of a controversial topic. I'm going to stay away from the religious wars about HTML5 versus native. But the first thing I would do is just even challenge you, do you need an app? And if all you're really looking to do is take your website and get it out across a large number of form factors, maybe building a responsive design is good enough. Or go the step further and build a more customized experience with an MDOT site. But do you really need to build an app? And if you do need to build an app, what are your objectives there? And which technology really supports that best? If you're looking at dynamic content, you want to reuse web content and assets like a shopping cart, perhaps hybrid is the way to go. We're seeing, frankly, more and more people and brands who really want to deliver the top high-end engaging experience and get the highest click-through rates are moving to native. And you've seen recently Facebook, I think LinkedIn more recently, quite a few of the people that we're working with are in fact moving to native to get that really engaging experience. And then knowing and building for your target audience. This is a great example. Hotwire Hotels, of all the things that are on their website, they chose last-minute hotel check-in and build an app specifically for that because that's what they knew their most loyal customers really wanted to do. So it's not about, and I love the phrase earlier, shrinking our desktop and web apps down onto a smaller screen. It's about what specifically do we want to try to accomplish. And in this case, it was one very specific thing, and they've had great success with the app. The theme I heard over and over today is mobile is new, we need to experiment, you need to constantly keep content fresh, and I absolutely believe that. The challenge has been how do you do that? And particularly with native apps, this has been an extremely tedious thing to do. I mean, frankly, best practice that we've seen so far today is people will build one app and have like 6 versions of it inside the app so they can sort of toggle on and off different types of functionality, which works to some degree, but it doesn't give you a very, very good degree of flexibility in terms of some of the tests and things that you might want to do. And the process to make even a simple change is incredibly tedious. So you just want to change some of the copy in your app. You've got to get somebody to do the coding. You've got to recompile the app. You've got to resubmit it to the App Store. wait for Apple, 7, 10, 14 days to reapprove the app to get it in the App Store, and then frankly, you then have to rely on your users to download that up and update their phone. I don't know if you're like me, at any given time I'm walking around with probably a dozen or more updates waiting on my phone and probably close to 20 updates waiting on my iPad. I just don't do it. So if you're the publisher of the app, you are the marketer of that app, and you're trying to get updates out to your users, it's a very tedious thing to do. It can take upwards of a month, and it's not always clear that when you do publish that even all of your users are downloading and running on the current version. So introducing then the concept of the mobile experience management platform. And effectively, this is all the things you guys have been able to do for years with websites. Making dynamic changes to look and feel, doing A/B testing to see which designs work better, even personalizing experiences we're bringing to the world of mobile apps, and specifically native apps, and giving business users the capabilities of doing that. And really at the heart of the technology that makes all of this work is we have the ability to directly publish to the end user. So again, it's a business platform, you're not writing code, but when you publish, we're publishing directly to your end users. You're not recompiling the app, you're not having to resubmit to the App Store, you're not having to wait on your users download and update their apps. You're literally communicating with and publishing directly to your end users, which is an incredible capability. So that allows you to do lots of very cool things. And we've built a platform around this. This is the Artisan Platform. Everything from creating the user experience, again, without writing code, to analyzing. Obviously, analytics is a very important step, understanding where the user is coming and through your app, where they're getting stuck, where they're falling out. Sort of doing that funnel analysis, again, looking at the transaction paths through the app. And then using Optimize to try to figure out what you can do to improve that flow. Is it something with the design? Is it something with the messaging? Is it something with colors? Again, all of us know from the web world that even the smallest changes can have incredible impact on click-through rates and the achievement of objectives in the app. And then personalize. Imagine having a native app that changes based on the user. You could have one app, 3 different users bring up the exact same native app. They get 3 different experiences based on the profile we know about that user, maybe where they are geographically. But again, being able to really customize the experience that we're delivering to our users on the mobile device, and then ultimately monetize. And we have the ability to do native in-app advertising, so you're not sort of slapping those ugly banner ads on top of your app. You can do things right inside the UI. We think is going to be very, very interesting moving forward. So that's the platform. And the end goal here, as I said, was to sort of make editing an app as easy as what is editing a website today. And the same people, whether it's marketers or product people, e-commerce folks who are doing that with websites, should be able to do that with native apps. And it sort of changes your whole mindset around something that's kind of static, and once it's downloaded and it's on your phone, it doesn't change. It changes the mindset to, hey, this really is and can be a dynamic marketing channel that we can do lots of cool things with to engage more deeply with our end customers. I'm going to pause there before I go into the case study and just see if there's any questions on the concept of mobile experience management, what we're doing with apps, and just sort of the notion of treating it more like a dynamic marketing channel than a static app. In the back there.
You said you're publishing the changes directly for us.
Correct.
Are we pulling the experience or are we pushing the experience to the consumer?
Yeah, very quickly, the way the technology works is once the marketer, whoever makes the changes, we put those changes in our cloud. Each of the apps have an SDK. They pull the cloud, they bring the changes down in background. We never do anything to affect the performance of the app. And then the next time the user pages to a screen that's been changed, it checks the playlist, it says there's been an update, and it shows the new design instead of the previous design. And we actually have a patent filed for that little bit of cleverness. Back here in the middle.
Yes. You talked about relevant performance indicators for the mobile investment, so to speak. And you mentioned acquisition cost as one of those indicators. How do you suggest or how do you measure that?
I think it's not too dissimilar to acquisition costs in any other channel, right? What's the investment you're making on your campaigns? how many people you're driving through the funnel through to, either it's engagement or all the way through to purchasing and becoming a buyer and becoming a client. It's the same sort of concept. Other questions? Here in the front.
Do you do this for publishers or only strictly for retail?
Publishers as well. We found, obviously on the tablet, we support obviously both iPhone and tablet. We support iOS, Android, and a little bit further down the road we'll do HTML5. But absolutely, publishers. We're working with one company. I can't say who they are, but they like to focus on things like the weather. And we're working with their tablet app to help them really improve the performance of their app on the tablet. Other questions? I'm going to go into the case study because I think this really helps drive the point home. This is a small company. It's a startup. It's a view from my seat. You can pretty much infer what they do just from the name of the company. It's sharing. It's a photo sharing app. You're at different sporting venues or concert venues. You want to share what's going on. But I think this really kind of shows you the kinds of things that you can do without having to write code. They wanted to drive increase engagement, uploads, and retention. They had no easy way to make changes. They were kind of held captive by IT making the changes. And here's some examples. They wanted to, in the case of uploading photos, they found that, and the far left was the original design, they found that by making it easy to share with your social networks, that drove a lot more engagement within the app. And again, the thing to remember here, just like in the web world, small changes can have really big impact. Here's another simple one. The venue list used to be just a tabular list of names. They changed that to actually show pictures of the different venues, and again drove a better improvement in engagement of the users. Even little things like the original search had no instructions whatsoever. It was just a search bar. They added some very simple tips about the types of things that you can search on, and by making these really simple changes, they were able to drive a 22% increase in user engagement in just 2 months using the platform. Again, without writing any code and doing it from a marketing perspective as opposed to sort of an IT perspective. So really pretty impressive results for a view from my seat. So I'll do the summary and then I'll take some more questions from the audience. But again, I think it's really important to understand why you're building the app. Do you need an app? But if you are going to invest in an app, obviously you want to get the most out of it. So focus on creating that compelling mobile experience, keeping the content fresh. We talked about that a number of times this morning. This platform gives you the ability to do that. You can try out different content, try out different designs, try out different messages, see what works, what doesn't work. And then use mobile experience management technology. That's like I said, kind of a new category of solution coming from the vendor side of the world to really enable you to increase the effectiveness of your app and drive the business results that you were hoping to get when you invested in the app in the first place. And with that, I'll open it back up to questions from the audience. Back here.
What kinds of things can you do and what kinds of things can you not do? So for example, you showed us the table and you change context to Word. If I wanted to add a shopping cart, let's say I do this once and I don't have a shopping cart, but I get it out there and then I want to add a shopping cart.
Yep.
Do I use the same approach when you use a shopping cart feature?
Yeah, so the question is what kinds of things can you do with the platform and what kinds of things can't you do with the platform? So the first thing I would say is that any element that's on the screen is fair game. So when we, basically what happens is you connect your phone to the platform, you navigate to the screen that you want to modify, and we reverse engineer that and bring that up. So everything on there is yours to move, change, resize, whatever. Adding a shopping cart is more at the adding functionality level. So we're more focused on changing the user experience and the user design versus functionality. But we even have a more advanced version of the platform. It does require developers, but you could, in fact, insert additional functionality like that. Other questions? Got to be more. You guys, you have turkey for lunch? You're all asleep already? All right, well, cool. I'm going to give you some time back in the agenda. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, I got one more back here.
It's about dynamically changing the experience, right? Sitting like an experience manager, mobile experience manager, you said.
Exactly.
Is that a static change, or is there a personalization aspect to it? Like, for example, if my customer is coming with X context, deliver Y, how does that work?
Your customers come in with what? I'm sorry?
A customer is coming with, say, a customer is coming from New York, and you give X experience. A customer is coming from San Francisco, you give a Y experience. Is there an aspect like that to it?
Absolutely, and that geo-targeting comes in several ways. When you're doing A/B testing, and you want to set up a test and only run it for one particular geography, you can absolutely do that. And in personalization, we can do the same thing. So you can keep it at that level and just show two different experiences based on what part of the country you're in, or maybe you want to combine it with other gender, age, shopping habits, whatever the case might be, to personalize the experience you're delivering to the end users. I mean, it can even be used to do things like, I think I heard somebody talk about this earlier today, you might want to start out with when there's a brand new user, only showing them 2 or 3 key functions until they really understand how to use those things. And then over time, they become an intermediate user, and they go into another category, and you show them more of the user interface, and then an advanced user, and they get all the dials and knobs and dials and knobs and capabilities of the app. So very creative things you can do to customize the experience for your end customers. Over here. Yeah, the question was, when you do the A/B testing, multivariate testing, do we also provide all the analytics? Absolutely. So we will show you the results of the test. Let's say you decide to run for 30 days. You've got 5 different versions of your design that you're trying to test. We will show you at the end of that 30 days which design performed the best, which one had the highest click-through rates. And again, the cool thing is, at that point, you would literally click on that design alternative and say publish. And from that point forward, all of your users would get that new design. The next time they navigated to that screen, they'd be seeing the new design. So again, no recompiling, no resubmitting, no waiting for everybody to download their app. Other questions? Here in the front.
More tactical, how self-service is this, or how much does it require someone to work with a member of your staff?
Question is, how self-service is it? How much would someone need to work with our staff? We've really tried to build it to the same type of people who do this today on websites. There's one step that and we have an SDK that you need to compile into the app one time, so you need to get your IT department involved with that. But once that's in there, it's really like having the app on remote control. It's point and click, drag and drop. We typically help people get up and do their first test just so they see how it works. And very quickly, they're off and running in terms of experimenting with different designs.
And one more, open architecture, can you plug other things into it?
Another great question. In terms from an architecture standpoint, can we plug other products into it? And one thing we're trying to do is be complementary with products that are already out in the market. So one thing we'll be able to do, for example, is provide an analytics feed out of our platform. If you want to suck that into Adobe or Core Metrics and sort of look at your web results and your mobile results side by side, that's something that we'll be able to do. And that's all the rage these days. I'm sure you guys know better than I do, but omni-channel marketing, multi-channel marketing, running campaigns across the different channels, being able to see results. So yeah, we definitely want to be complementary with the web tools that are already in the market. All right, now I'm going to give you more time back to lunch. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.